Buenos dias.
Oh, we speaking Spanish today?
Just a little bit. Let me see my let me make sure we got it set up right. Can you see me?
I can see you. So when we went on our random right bobblehead. You remember when we went on live on the random day? I think it was on
Hmm.
Wednesday. When I looked back at it, I don't know what the cameras were doing. I think it was Facebook Live's fault. But did you see where it was a part where our faces were a little bit too big for the live?
Oh.
Like a part of my face was, yeah, if you look into maybe like 30 minutes in, it's
Mm.
like it's like we look really large. So we don't look like how we look right
Hmm.
now, but I look large. We both look like our faces are like where my hands are, like boom. It's like god damn,
Oh.
why was it? I don't know. I think it was the internet connection on one of our ends that caused it,
Mm.
or it could have been just live in general that was acting weird.
Hmm.
But I like that
Thank
shirt. You
you.
always be wearing the shirts. I be looking like plain Jane, and you over here
I'm
styling it up with the
representing my
shirt.
people too, you know.
I see.
Hey,
With that.
I can do
Oh.
it. I'm Cherokee. I can do it. Um, how's your morning been, or how's your day been? Because it's my morning.
My right. It's 3 over here. So yeah, I'm good. I have been chilling this weekend, not really doing a whole lot. I mean, I do have homework that I have to finish later on today, but um, yeah, next week is my last week in class before I graduate with my master's
Glory.
degree. So I am just like excited about that. I see my girl Veronica's on. Hey, girl. I went to SLC
Okay.
with her. But yeah, I am like next week is my last week of school, and I'm on cloud nine about it because I felt like it was never gonna come. I feel like I was never gonna graduate. Like this year and a half has been so busy with college, and I'm just so glad that next week is my last full week. So I'm just on cloud nine. So I see Elder Kenny's on. Hello,
Hello,
Elder
Elder
Kenny.
Kim.
Um, I guess I can go ahead and get
Why didn't
started.
talk about my morning?
Um, oh, I mean, right. I didn't even ask you how your morning was. So how about before we get started, we're gonna find out how
Right?
Brandon's morning is since I shaded him. I shaded the mess out of Brown. Like your morning don't matter. Let's get started.
Hey, okay. When you said my morning don't matter, that made me think about one of my favorite. Shout out to Derek Minor. He's um, a believer, and his music reflects that. You know what I mean? I guess you could say Christian rapper, but he posted on his Facebook, "All Parents Matter" today. Did you see that?
I
I
saw
was like,
that.
that's funny.
Hmm.
That is that. I mean, because it's good to have a little bit of humor and to keep things light. But this morning, so I woke up and I prayed a little bit, watched a little bit of different churches online, did T25. So I got my Sean T in, you know.
With his fine
Uh,
self. My
see,
God.
so I
Yes,
got my
Lord.
workout in,
Hallelujah.
and then I moisturized, you know, and now we're here, ready to do the show. Vibe Lyrical.
Okay. Vibe Political episode 7. Congratulations. Oh, that must be to
Yeah.
me. Thank you, Elder Kenny. Appreciate that so much. So welcome to Vibe Political episode 7. The topics will be money and social change and Babylon. When I was a little boy, I used to say Babylon. So I just want that's a fun fact
Mm.
about me. I was like, oh, Babylon? They're like, no, Andre, it's Babylon. I was like, oh, okay. But I always used to say Babylon. Just a little fun fact about that word, but I know it's
Nice.
Babylon.
Hey
So,
Peter and hey Anthony, Babylon.
Babylon. I said Babylon as a little boy and teenager growing up in the church. I said Babylon. They were like, Andre, it is not Babylon. Uh, it took me until I was almost grown to realize that it was Babylon. But anyway, so yes, that our topics today are money and social change, which I'll be discussing that, and then Brandon's going to be talking about Babylon. So I'll go ahead and get started. So the reason why my topic was on money and social change is because I have been doing my digging. As you all know, I try to look for the things that uplift and edify us. I'm trying to take the word positive, even though I'm going to say the word
Mm-hmm.
positive, but I want to ensure that I'm providing information that is going to uplift you all during the times that we're in. Of course, with the protests going on, COVID-19, like I feel like a lot of folks have even forgot about
Yeah.
COVID-19. I mean, not that they've forgotten about it, but like it's not the Black Lives Matter and all the different things with protests and the murders that have been happening. COVID-19 is kind of on the back
Mm.
burner. So, and I'm not going to talk about COVID-19 today. I'm not talking about that. I just wanted to say that there's a whole lot going on. So there's a pandemic going on top of social injustice, all these different things. So I wanted to talk about money and social change. So I'm going to talk about the money part. And once again, this is a part about uplifting because there's a lot of people that don't even know about a lot of the good things that's going on in the midst of all this. So I want to talk about a female, and please comment below and converse with us because I will be reading them as your moderator. And Brandon is going to give his 2 cents as well as to what you all are talking about. But please comment. So do you all know, and Brandon, this question goes to you too, a woman by the name of Janiqua Charles? I know you be reading the news. I know you be reading articles and stuff. Do you know, Janiqua Charles? I see
Miss Ragland.
last name
How you doing,
Tanika
Miss?
is on. Ragland
Yeah.
Tanika. Miss Ragland. Hey. Janiqua Charles. You do not know Janiqua Charles. You can't really recollect. Okay. So the reason why I brought up this woman, and I did some research on her because I saw this video of this woman, and this woman went viral. Basically, she got arrested, and there was a security guard, a very handsome security guard, by the way, and I'll talk about him in a moment. But it was a video recording of her saying, "You about to lose your job.
Yes.
You about to lose your job." And then you about to lose your job because you detaining me for nothing. Yeah, so her name is Janiqua Charles, and I did some research on her. And let me open up my computer again. Okay, so I did some research on her, and this video was recorded in February, you all. So this video was recorded prior to COVID-19, and it just blew me away because this video went viral the same day, around the same time George Floyd was murdered. And so, mind you, this is February that it was actually recorded. It did not go viral in February. It went viral about 1 or 2 days after George Floyd died. And in what she stated was to the security guard, it was a security guard or a cop, I'm not sure, but I think it was a security guard based on multiple sources that I checked, that this woman said, "You about to lose your job because you detaining me for nothing." That was basically what she said but apparently there was a producer that made her phrase and actually made it a song that you can literally download. Like, it's big. Like, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you all have heard this whole this song, but her voice is in it, and she's saying, "You about to lose your job because you detaining me for nothing." And there's a beat and everything about it. And I did further research on Janiqua because this woman struggled with drug addiction and homelessness, you all. And I didn't know that. But her family reached out to her. She has rebonded with her family. And someone that was a good citizen, don't even know who this is, created a GoFundMe account for her. And guess what? She has received up to $55,000 from folks. Now, mind you, I don't know what this person created on GoFundMe. I don't know if they did some digging on her past or maybe went on her social media to realize that she was struggling financially, and she was homeless. She was homeless. This was a homeless woman. But it touched my heart because I'm like, wow, James Floyd passed away June 3rd. And then George
You
Floyd. Yeah,
said
George Floyd. I said George Floyd. That's it.
you
What
said
did I say?
James.
I said
Hmm.
George. Did I say James? I thought I
I'm
said
sorry.
George. George, yeah, George Floyd passed away June 3rd. I think you heard June and maybe thought I said George, but passed away in June. But this video was made in February, but it went viral around the time George Floyd passed. I mean, George Floyd was murdered. So for me to see that there was a GoFundMe account created for her and she received a little over $50,000, that just lets us know that there is still giving people out there. There's still people that is giving money, supporting Black lives. Um, so to add to that, not sure if you all have done your research on George Floyd's GoFundMe. Do you all know where that what is going on with that account? Have
Mm-mm.
y'all heard? Oh, you have not. So George Floyd, someone created a George Floyd account on GoFundMe, and it has raised over $14 million.
Mm.
So I'm not sure where that money's going. I don't know if it's going to the family of George Floyd. I don't know if it's going. I know a lot of it went to the funeral cost. A lot of it went towards the funeral that happened and the ceremony that happened, the funeral ceremony that happened for him. But it was over 480,000
Mm.
donations. So over 480,000 people provided towards his GoFundMe account, and this spanned over 140 plus countries worldwide, you all. So it was not just the United States that provided towards this GoFundMe account. And that warmed my heart because I'm like, wow, like George Floyd's murder went worldwide. And I think I talked about it before where there were even other countries protesting. New Zealand, Australia. I mean, all these different countries that were
Mm-hmm.
protesting the murder of George Floyd, and just to find out that his GoFundMe account has raised over $14 million, and it spans with over 480,000
Mm.
donations worldwide, and is spanned between 140 countries. And for me, I'm like, wow, that's the was that on CNN? Was that on MSNBC? Was that world news? Was that and that's those are the things
Mm-hmm.
that I understand we have to talk about the murders that happen. We have to emphasize on Black Lives Matter, and I am all for that. But there is some good stuff happening, and I don't think that was even reported like on CNN. I mean, if
I
it
don't.
was, then that's great, right? And that's why I'm coming to you, Brandon, because I know that you watch CNN. I know that you watch MSNBC and even Fox, but I'm not even gonna go there. But with that being said, so for me, that just warmed my heart because I'm like, wow, I'm pretty sure there's not a whole lot of people that even know about that, that even know about the GoFundMe that was created for George
Mm-hmm.
Floyd. And what touched my heart even more, and I want to say that this happened a little bit after. I don't know if you all know that Beyonce released a letter that was given to the Louisville
Heard
Police
about that.
Department about Breonna Taylor. It was a letter that she wrote, signed by her. Basically, yeah. And ever since then, someone else created a GoFundMe for Breonna Taylor, and guess what, you all? That GoFundMe has raised over $6 million
Mm.
worldwide. So for me, like those are the kinds of things that I love to hear. In spite of all the stuff that we have to talk about, we have to talk about all the unfortunate things and crazy things and terrible things that is happening. But Breonna Taylor has a GoFundMe as well, and it raised over $6 million.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I also want to talk about in reference to money is a part that I wrote down. A lot of people are trying to figure out where and
Mm-hmm.
how to donate their money, and where they should buy from. And I also want to talk a little bit. I don't want to go too deep into it, but like I said, you all, please comment below. But I'm gonna talk about the defund the police. I know that y'all have heard about this term, defund the police, right? Um, and reparations, and those have also been hot topics throughout the
Mm-hmm.
U.S. So I want to talk a little bit about defunding the police, and it kind of ties in with social change. Okay, so defunding the police, you all, means different things to everybody. And like I said, please comment below on your definition of defunding the police, your definition of social change, because I kind of did a little bit of research on the social changes that are happening right now. So some people may mean with defunding the police, that the money that is funded for the police should go somewhere else. But there's other folks that say abolish the police, just remove the whole police force. So there's different definitions for defunding the police. But I just kind of wanted to give you all, like, because there's different meanings for different folks. So I want to talk about someone. Go ahead.
I would just add that in each city, they have made their intention. They have like plans that are laid out on where they would like the money to go. Like from Minneapolis, Atlanta, like the people have put forth, or the chief of police for those cities have put forth where they would like to see the money go.
Right. So that's why. But at the end of the day,
I'm just adding to what you're saying. It's not a blanket statement. Yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of people think it means literally just removing the police force altogether and abolishing it, and then but there's other meanings, like you just stated and I stated, where all that money that's funding the police would be going towards something that would actually help more people, benefiting more people. So I want to talk about someone. I cannot say his name, so I'm not even gonna say it, but it's a hard name, so I'm gonna say someone from the Black Visions Collective. Do you know what the Black Visions Collective is? Have you heard of the Black Visions Collective? No. Okay, so it's another Black Lives Matter-esque kind of organization that is based out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. And this person, with this Black Visions Collective, it also intersects with the LGBT community as well. And they're heavily involved in the Black Lives Matter protest. And what this person said was, and I'm just only giving you what he has said. I'm not saying this is what I'm saying or anything. I'm just telling you what this person has said. This person that I looked up wants to completely abolish the police. Like, he doesn't even want police at all. And I'm gonna explain what he means by that. And like I said, you all comment below. He says that he wants to tear down the police as a whole and create something totally new. He wants to try to find lesser needs for cops. And what he means by that, that he believes that the money should go towards education and job training. And then basically he feels like the police would need to step in on so many different things that happen. And that's the reason why he feels that there's so much funding that goes towards the police. So I want to give some statistical data as well for you all. So I'm not sure if you all know this, but New York City.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Hey, Alex Stein, he just joined the chat.
Hey, Alex. So New York City Police gets the third largest city budget. Third, right behind education and social services. So they get about $6 billion per year, New York City alone, when it comes to the police budget, the police city budget. And Minneapolis gets $193 million a year. That's the budget that the police force alone gets. So that should give you a bigger perspective on why a lot of folks are saying defund the police, because there's so much money that goes into it. But I want to explain where all the money goes. Someone said they don't understand English. Oh, I'm so sorry. Someone posted, I don't understand English. Sorry, I'm so sorry about that. So what I want to go ahead and go on. Hey, Kelly, my high school friend Kelly's online. So why do police get so much money? Why do police get so much? So there's a lot of variations. And as you all know, I'm pretty sure you all know what they do, but I'm going to go ahead and explain it. The cops get called, and this is based off of what this person said from the Black Visions Collective. He says that they get called for too many things. So think about how many times you call the police. So think about that. He mentioned car accidents, you call the police. Traffic stops, the police is involved. Directing traffic, police is involved. Neighbors getting called for loud noise next door, cops get called. And he basically said, why can't someone else do that? Why is it the police? Those are things that are just basic things that happen across the United States. Just, car accidents, traffic stops, directing traffic, someone calling for a rowdy neighbor. That's where a lot of the funding goes towards. And he also has said that there are some officers right now currently in the field that they've spoken out and said that they would love to just answer to crimes. If someone gets called, if someone calls 911 and says someone got shot or someone got murdered or someone has died, that's the police is saying that's what we want. But all these others extra jobs that they got to do, where they directing traffic, pulling people over for speeding, all that stuff, they feel like their job as cops is to protect and serve. As we've talked about that, protect and serve. So the protection part is, yeah, if there's a threat to somebody's life, yes, police should be involved. Police should be able to go and prevent crime. I see my friend Frendarius is on. Hey, that should be the reason why police are called. But policing, there's a whole lot of different responsibilities that police officers have. And that I think that is why the city's budget across the world, different cities across the world, have such a high budget, because police officers are doing multiple things. So I went into also looking up the statistics on how much involvement police officers have with people and is getting pulled over. So when someone gets pulled over, that is the most interaction between the police officer and us U.S. citizens, right? And he also kind of elaborated on body cams, because he was saying body cams were a good thing to incorporate with police officers, but he still finds out that cops are still lying about what actually happened. Cops are still, even though with the body cams, and me and Brandon talked offline about folks covering their body cams, or making sure that that's not seen. But
or
now,
hiding the footage. In the footage.
Or hiding the footage. I see my friend Lewis is on. My poppy is on. Hey, Lewis. But yeah, I with that being said, the cops are lying. A lot of the cops are lying about what has happened. And then with that happening, there are us as U.S. citizens that are pulling out our smartphones and showing the evidence to counter what the cops have done. And then now they're being charged with murder. Now they're being charged with different things because, oh, their body cams are off, or they don't have body cams to begin with. And then you have people like us using our smartphones to be like, well, what this says is something totally different from what the cop is saying. So that's where he was going with the whole. That's the reason why this person is so adamant about just abolishing the police altogether. So with this interview that he conducted with a reporter, he said he wants to create a title that says community-led safety. Community-led safety. And basically it would be a new program that would start from the ground up, and it would handle all other reasons that are non-violent in nature, which is basically what I said: pulling people over for speeding, traffic stops, directing traffic. Should police officers be doing that? Should police officers be doing that? And I'm just asking. I'm not saying that I agree with any of these things. I'm just saying, because the police force has been around, but of course we all know the original reason why police. But Brandon, you can go there if you want to. But we know the real reason as to the police force. But I'm just providing these things so y'all can kind of, think about these things.
Can I interview quick?
Go ahead.
Like, did this brother, did he talk about the amount of money that, like, so I just Googled NYPD. Did he talk about the amount of money that is paid out from policing in civil lawsuits?
No, he did not go into civil lawsuits. So what this person did was that he said, I want to do my research as a whole, the whole New York City Police Department, being that they are the third highest funding in that city. He was like, wait a darn minute. This money could be going towards education for those Black communities and those Black and brown people, all the poverty area. Like, this money should be going towards other things. But hey, Stephanie, I see Stephanie. But the money is going to the police. The third highest budget is going towards police. And I'm not saying that police aren't important. I'm just saying that in his mind, he's like, the funding, the money is being distributed so much more towards the police, and it could be going towards other things. And that's the reason
why I brought that up, because it's an astronomical amount. I mean, over $200 million. in FY 2018 and FY 2019. It decreased by 7%, but over $200 million in the FYs were due to settlements and claims. So that's 200.
Alone.
So that is a big part of the budget as well. You know how we do on the show, like just to really drive it home, because I think that's something that if I could have a conversation with him, I would bring into the conversation too. Like, look, police, the not only is the police budget high, but how much of that, a quarter, you know, a large amount, where could that $200 million be going? And it's maybe because these claims were paid out, which means that the police were seen as wrong or wrongdoing at the hands of police. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Samuel says, I'm watching your video. You are good. Saying, I agree with you. I mean, yeah. And well, like I said, I'm only talking about what this gentleman has said from the Black Vision Collective and just providing some insight as to where the funding goes. And then what are the solutions to to move that
Mhm.
funding? Because I mean, I think that it would be beneficial just hearing what he said and like letting the police only handle those crime related incidents, the ones that involve somebody being murdered or someone being their life being threatened. But all these other fundings, and like you said, with settlements alone, 200 million,
Mhm.
that is astronomically high. So a lot of that, so and that's why this gentleman said like, yeah, no, that's why he wants it abolished. And I'm just speaking for him. He said he wants to just no police. Because if all that money is going towards that, and then you just said with settlements, whoa, that's a big whoa. So I want to move on to social change a little bit deeper to social change, and this is going to kind of make y'all laugh. Hopefully, give y'all a laugh. So now I want to speak about companies that support the Black Lives Matter and social justice. I want to talk about a few. I want to talk about three companies that, well, before I talk about the three companies, I want to shout out NASCAR. NASCAR has banned Confederate
Mhm.
flags at its races. I don't know if y'all have heard about that, but NASCAR they had Confederate flags all through, and they have banned Confederate flags at its races. So shout out to NASCAR for that. And I also want to shout out Aunt
Mhm.
Jemima. I don't know if you ever heard about Aunt Jemima or Aunt Jemima. I say Aunt Jemima. I'm from California. I don't say Aunt Amy. I don't say Aunt. I say Aunt. But Aunt Jemima is changing its name because it's based on a racist stereotype. And I want to shout out Aunt
Yeah.
Jemima for that. If y'all do your research on Aunt Jemima, you're all going to see. If you do some digging on that, I'm not going to go into it today. But just look up why it was created, because on Google it shows you everything. So I want to shout out to those companies for being a part of the Black Lives Matter and social justice. But I want to give you all three companies that were very cheesy with their stance on social justice. And this is just to make y'all laugh. We understand their intent, but like I said, provide y'all feedback on how y'all feel about this, because it is hilarious to me. So, do you all know about the musical Wicked? Have you ever heard of the Wicked
Yes.
musical? If you have not, or if you have or have not, it doesn't matter. But I'm gonna give you all their slogan or their phrase in reference to social justice. So there's a picture of a green witch's arm, and then a picture of a white arm, and they're linked together. And it says, "When we defy hate, we defy gravity." I'm gonna repeat it again.
What does that even mean?
It's the cheesiest thing, and I'm not understanding. You messed up by putting a white arm with the Green Witch's arm, because I'm like, so what? It's cheesy because I'm like, okay, I see what you're saying when we defy hate, but where did the gravity part come in? I don't know. So it was very cheesy. So that's a laugh for you, even though we understood what what Wicked was doing. It was terrible. Then we're gonna move to Google. Google messed up. Yes, Google. I'm putting y'all on blast. So if there's any Google workers, sorry, but I'm about to let y'all know what someone at Google decided to post on social media. They said we stand in support of racial equality and all those who search for it. I'm gonna read it again. We stand in support of racial equality and all those who search for it. Google, you're searching on Google. Google search. Google. Go into the thing. Type. Cheesy, right? It is
Yeah.
terrible. Google, sweetie, we don't need you telling us that you stand with us, but then you're talking about searching
Right.
for it. Because your typical person's not really going to be searching for racial equality. It just needs to
Right.
happen.
Hey, Kevin.
Not searching for it.
That,
Google. They tried to make it, they tried to tie their business with equality, and no, Google, no. So Gushers is my next one. Gushers candy, the gummy, the Gushers, where you eat the gummies and the gush. Okay, they said there is no Gushers without the Black community.
yeah. Yeah.
Brandon, there is no Gushers without the Black community. So what are you saying? Are you saying? So you're saying, oh, since we started Gushers,
Mm.
there's no Gushers? That's not the appropriate thing to say. That it no cheesy. And I'm sorry, I got one more. This one's gonna make y'all realize. I saved this one for last, you all. So y'all ready? Okay. Do y'all know the brand Tushy? It's the bidet company. So you know the bidets that you go in the bathroom and you use it, and it shoots up water and stuff. Yeah, that one. They said this. Now this one messed me up. This said, we stand in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter, and we got your back side.
Wow.
We stand in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement, and we got your back
Mm.
side. So they basically tied your backside sitting on a bidet with the Black Lives Matter. Cheesy. That, and you want to know what makes it bad, Brandon? You want to know what makes this real terrible? I looked up who said it. It was a Black woman.
Mm.
A Black woman put that statement. She works
Mm.
at Tushy. She's a marketing consultant, and she put that on there. She put that on the Tushy website.
You know,
How do you feel about that, Brandon? How do you feel about it? Like these four very cheesy but supportive
I feel like
phrases.
on one hand, any mention of Black Lives Matter is a good thing. On the other hand, mockery is mockery. Just the same way I feel like any preacher, I can listen to any preacher for the moment that they read the scripture. You know what I mean? Like while they're reading, if a pastor, if a person is just totally off, racist, whatever, the moment they're reading that, I can tune in. Like I've matured to a place where I can accept that. But the moment they go off the rail, nah. And I just think that a lot of this seems like mockery. What's up, Chef? A lot of this seems like mockery. I can appreciate, like I said, I can appreciate the publicity, but to me, like to equate Black Lives Matter with Tushy and like these other corny things and gushers, like y'all, I think what they're trying to do is capitalize, and they are actually the reason or part of the reason why we say Black Lives Matter. Think about it. Like it's so ironic, but that is part of the reason off of it because you still want to capitalize off of Black lives. So now it's a statement, but you want to join in on that statement. So I'm I'm two-sided in the sense of like, okay, it's out there. But my question is, why could they do like PlayStation? Not PlayStation, but the Call of Duty video game. I had a conversation with a millennial or Generation Z, yeah,
Generation Z.
about Call of Duty. We that conversation took us into all these other topics, but like he was basically saying how Call of Duty put a Black Lives Matter statement when the game popped up. He played it on the computer and it would pop up then, you know?
So Samuel's saying James 2, 14, 15, and 16, read it and explain to me. Is he talking to somebody else or are you talking to us? Well, I don't wanna divert from the topic, but the topic that we're
Talk to him
discussing, but
about that.
um
I can
huh?
talk to him later.
You can talk about it? Yeah. Well, no, I don't want to not explain. No, I still want to talk about it, but I want to finish. Let's finish the
Okay.
topics, and then let's go back to Samuel towards our end. So right before we end, because I don't want to ignore
Okay.
Samuel. I just don't want to divert. I don't want to divert too much, because we got to flow. We got to maintain the flow. But I do want to address that scripture though. So, because I got two more points, and then I'm gonna pass it over to Brandon to talk about Babylon, not Babylon. So, so I want to talk about the Brooklyn Community Bail Fund. I don't know if y'all know about the Brooklyn Community Bail Fund, but if you don't know, the first Friday that after George Floyd was murdered, the fund raised $1.8 million in just 24 hours. Not sure if y'all knew that, but I'm putting that out there for you all to know. But right after they reached the 1.8 million, they released a statement, and they said that they don't need any more money and to donate somewhere else. And the reason why they said that is because there's so many groups receiving money, but placing websites on their actual website to donate elsewhere because it's too much money. So basically, the Brooklyn Community Bail Fund was like, okay, we helped the ones that came to jail due to protesting, because that's where the money was. They were donating the money towards the folks that got arrested for protesting. Because as you all know, there have been several protesters being arrested because they were protesting, not because they were rioting and looting or anything. They were being arrested just for protesting. And I don't know if you saw, I don't know if that was in New York or not, but it was a bus that the cops wanted the bus driver to drive, but the bus driver refused because they wanted the police wanted the bus driver to take them to jail to lock them up. So all that ties in together. So apparently 1.8 million was too much because I guess I think I don't want to get the number wrong, but I want to say it was a little bit below $25,000 to get everybody that was protesting out. So 1.8 million was a little bit too much. So basically what they're saying is the Community Bail Fund in Brooklyn, they were like, listen, like, we appreciate the money, but we can't touch this money unless someone else gets arrested for protesting. And we have too much money that's just not being utilized. So they were just saying, please donate elsewhere, please. So I want you all, including myself, to do research on where our money's going and how much is needed, because you don't want to be giving and it's not going to be really utilized in that time. The motive was good, it was great, but the Brooklyn Community Bail Fund was like, no, it's too much. We got money that just we can't touch for anything. So in addition to that, and I'll close on this because Brandon, I want your take on this. So Apple, Microsoft, and Google, the one that had the cheesy reference, they donated collectively over $7 million to the wrong Black Lives Matter Foundation.
Wow.
And basically what those three organizations did, they donated to the Black Lives Matter Foundation. The word "the" is not in Black Lives Matter Foundation. Take the word "the" out, it's just Black Lives Matter Foundation. And they donated to the Black Lives Matter Foundation. And guess where that money went to? A man that lives in San Diego, California. We don't know what he does with that money. We don't know what that foundation is, but that's not the actual Black Lives Matter. So it tells people, even people at these big corporations that should have management and marketing folks and folks that are in charge of the funding, should be looking at where is this money going? Because you just gave collectively over $7 million to a man who lives in California. And legally, you can't do nothing
Mm-hmm.
about it. That man just got $7 million for
Mm-hmm.
nothing. So the Black Lives Matter Foundation receives $0 from
Yeah.
Apple, Microsoft, and Google. So the reason why I say that, and the reason why I did my research on that, is because there's the motives behind a lot of these people in the United States and even in these other countries are great. But make sure you're giving donations and money to charities and stuff that is going to benefit multiple people. Do your research, because something as simple as saying the Black Lives Matter Foundation caused those three companies to lose out
Mm.
on millions because they didn't give to the actual foundation. So I'm going to close it on that. And of course, Brandon, you can go ahead and speak on what you feel about that and then go to your
Yeah.
topic of
I mean
Babylon.
that's crazy to me. And I just kind of did a quick skim over what James 2:14 through 26 is saying, and it's talking about showing faith with works. And I think that it's the perfect tie into the bail bond. What is it called? The New York,
The Brooklyn Community
the
Bail
Brooklyn
Fund.
Community Bail Fund. How they basically said, we got what we needed, donate elsewhere. And it's like that um it's the opposite of what Google and all these other companies did that didn't do their due diligence before they just gave their money. So what James chapter 2 verse 14 is talking about is basically um not just seeing a need and not doing anything about it. Like there's something that we all can do. Like if your brother or sister is naked and lacks daily food, and one of you says to them, "Go in shalom, keep warm and well fed," but you do not give them what the body needs, what good is that? So, like in this, which perfectly ties into, my topic of Daniel in Babylon. So James is basically saying, if you have faith and not works, then your faith is dead by itself.
Wow, that tied into my. Did I just tie into your? Did my little statement tie into Babylon? Ah, I love it. Okay, well, let me shut up.
So, I
Go
mean,
ahead.
if you have faith, then you need to have works. And that ties into like I think, a lot of what I believe um my religion to be, which does not um align with the larger part of Christianity that we see, and a lot of these other organizations who, have like the Episcopal Church has billions of dollars, the Catholic Church has billions of dollars, and there are parishes within them who do well and do great things in the community. But look at what's happening around the world. Like that money could be better utilized. So what James is talking about is that you need faith and you need works, and they produce one another. They're not separate. They're not oil and water. Faith and works actually do mix. So I want to like just read a little bit today. I found this article that like perfectly summarized the article, and the estimated time reading is 10 minutes. But I want you to chime in when I'm reading to let me know like what you think about it. And it's
And you all do the same thing. Comment below on
please
what you
do.
feel.
So in the comments, and Andre, please chime in. And it's talking about our world looks more like Babylon every day. And so I just want to bring up 3 points about Daniel, the life of Daniel, who lived in Babylon. So we live in extraordinary times, don't we? It feels like we're living at an inflection point in our history. I should add, this article was written in 2015. It's now 2020, if you didn't know. uh,
Right.
Refugees are flooding into Europe to escape the bloodiest civil war in recent memory. ISIS is gaining traction across the Middle East. Russia has begun flexing its muscle on the world scene, more overtly opposing Western priorities. The United States Supreme Court legalized same sex marriage this past summer. So clearly, this person who wrote this article does not support that. Obviously, we do. World economies continue to be uncertain and in need of intervention. We look around, and as people who have chosen to follow Yahuwah, our world feels more and more alien to us. Maybe once, a generation or two ago, we could feel a bit more at ease among our neighbors, peers, and coworkers because most of them shared values similar to ours. I disagree with that. I think what we see now is much of what we saw then. You know, I think people are having to make decisions about our world based on the fact that these things are in our face now, right? We didn't have the cameras before. So I think it just exposes this. What was it? We are seeing what was in people's minds and hearts now, what has always been there. But they didn't have to make the decision about it because it wasn't in their face. What do you think?
I agree with that wholeheartedly. I don't even have any objections or nothing. I totally
Okay.
agree with that.
But hey, Jason, but the world is becoming more and more like the great system that opposes God. It's a system we know will exist in the end time of Babylon. And when I read the scripture about Babylon, Babylon talks about it's a nation, not only a system. It's a nation that has a system, but it's a
Hmm.
nation. Lately, I've been thinking a lot about the prophet Daniel. Like us, he lived at a time of a major inflection point in history, and he became through it with great faith. He came through it with great faith. In fact, he lived through two major takeovers by world empires in his lifetime. He grew up in Jerusalem in the service of the royal family before he was deported to Babylon. So he was deported to Babylon, where he eventually became a high official. Many years later, he was present when Persia conquered Babylon. So this person said, I've been thinking about Daniel because in some ways, among all men and women of the Bible, it was his whose life circumstances most resemble our own today. Do you agree with that? Like what you know
Hmm.
about Babylon, and the system of Babylon, and the nation that Babylon was. You agree that it's kind of like that?
Mm,
Me too. He
I
didn't
do.
live. The reason why his life resembles ours is because he didn't live in Israel like most in the Old Testament. He didn't live in a Jewish community of believers like most in the New Testament. Instead, he was nearly alone with only three friends of like mind who are named in Scripture, in culture both foreign to him and resistant to God. Do you feel like sometimes the heart that you have, and what like the things to uplift and edify, and the way you call your friends and like connect with them, like do you feel um alone in the matters that you're pursuing, or do you think that because you do good news so much and like you feel like your heart with these things that you don't feel necessarily alone?
So I'm not gonna lie to you, Brandon. I do feel I'll say partially alone in the uplifting and edifying part that you speak of, because I feel that in the times that we're in, everybody's so in the sunken place. And I'm speaking about the Black community in
Mm.
particular. We're in a sunken place because we are the oppressed, and we are the ones that are dealing with this stuff. And you have every right to feel
Mhm.
that way. Um, but I feel like for me, and I even had my private talks with Brandon about, even during this time, even during the pandemic and all that, I'm at
Mhm.
peace. In the midst of all of this stuff that's going on, pandemic, murders, all that stuff, I'm still at peace. And I feel like, yeah, I mean, Brandon and I have already talked offline, where I'm called to just uplift and edify in the midst of all of this. I am called to do that because I want to give everyone, especially in the Black community, hope that everything is going to be okay. As long as you have a relationship with God, and a relationship with yourself as
Mhm.
well, self reflection, time to really just focus on you, because you
Right.
matter. You matter. And hey, I see Marcus is on.
Hey, Mark.
Um, and yeah, so yeah, I just feel that in this time, that is the reason why I dig so much for the good things that are going on in the midst of all of the craziness going on. I look for it because a lot of people didn't know about Janiqua Charles, where how she got $50,000 from GoFundMe. People just saw that thing on viral. They laughed at it, like, it was a whole song about you about to lose your job. Like, I mean, something that's corny. I mean, I ain't gonna call it corny, but it
Yeah.
was funny, and she was rewarded for that. She wasn't trying to be well known. She wasn't expecting that video to go
Right.
viral. And not to go too off topic, but the cop that had her in handcuffs was as calm, let her say what she wanted to say because she was drinking, but let her say everything she needed to say. And he has been offered jobs all across the United States just for how he conducted himself with her. Had her in handcuffs and everything, but the cop, who was very attractive, the cop who was just sitting there, had her in handcuffs, and was just letting her I mean, and she was twerking and everything. You about to lose, I mean, all this stuff, and boom, he's offered jobs in California, Florida, all that. And he has a lot of job offers because of how tame he was when he had her in handcuffs.
Yeah.
So for me, I look for those things, and I want to continue to talk about those things with, especially with my Black brothers and sisters, that there's so much going on that's good, that a lot of us are focusing only on the murders, only on the tragedies that are happening, and like there's stuff that's happening that's like, wow. Because some people didn't even know about Breonna Taylor having a GoFundMe. Some people didn't know about George Floyd having a GoFundMe. And I'm talking about Black folks. Did not know. But it's there. It's there. It's there. It's on Google. If you Google it,
Right.
it's there. Over 14 million for George Floyd, over 6 million for Breonna Taylor. So I just want to ensure that I'm in the headspace to do that. So that was it.
And Brian Wright is in the room from EOA school. He was in my group. Alex joined the chat, and what's up, Travis? So continuing on with that, like more and more our world looks like his world of Babylon. Reading Daniel's story can be incredibly inspiring in times like these, because not only did he live in the very seat of the beast power, he even worked directly for its king at times in his life. Yet he maintained his righteousness. Um, and I think we are faced with the same things. Like we turn on the television, we see shows, we hear music where they're telling us what's good is evil and what's evil is actually good. You know what I'm saying? Like they tell us, oh, what you saw, you don't know what happened outside of the video. But I remember we talked about that, like, people who say you don't know what happened outside of the video. I'm like, is there anything that could happen outside of this video to show me that that wasn't murder? You know what I'm saying? No, in my opinion, there's not. So let's go to the three lessons from the life of Daniel that we can apply today in our own lives. Number one, Daniel followed the beat of his own drum in a culture alien to him. I think maybe we feel alone. I think I feel alone sometimes, and most of the people that I know who are true believers feel alone sometimes, because it's not that we don't know other believers, but like we are all scattered about, which makes sense when you read the gospel, right? The job of Israel, of the Hebrews, was to be scattered to bring the gospel to the nations. So we connect with one another, but I'm in Washington and you're in Kentucky. But we connect and commune together and pray for one another. And Samuel is I want to say he's in Pakistan. And so we connect with one another, but we're all spread out and we're all scattered. Um, so for us today, we have to realize that God's way of life is countercultural, and we have to have the courage to stand up for what we know is right as the situation around us gets more and more foreign to our values. What's important to know about Babylon, and the reason why I wanted to talk about it, so last week we talked about navigating Egypt, right? Like, so what we find, I'm finding a
Mm-hmm.
common theme. Like in the Old Testament, you find this common theme where God took his people in the midst of evil and sustained and maintained them. Like
Right.
Moses was in Pharaoh's house. He grew up in Pharaoh's house. Joseph was in Pharaoh and Potiphar's house. You know what I'm saying? Like, so look at how there are people, and so we should assume the same today, that there are people who are righteous who are in the king's palace and in the king's house. There are. Even in a wicked kingdom, it didn't stop the kings from necessarily being wicked, but it did protect the righteous people. So we know that we'll have a way of escape from all of the wickedness that is to come. So Daniel was among the young men of nobility of Jerusalem who were selected to be trained for the service of King Nebuchadnezzar. As part of that deal, they got a portion of the king's food, which we can ascertain was largely unclean, because it tells us that Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with a portion of the king's delicacies, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the chief of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. So what is the connection with him and Moses right there? Help me preach. What's the connection with him and Moses right there? That Moses was in Pharaoh's house, and what did Moses do? He said, right? He said, I don't take part
Yeah.
in, I'm going to identify with my Hebrew countrymen. I don't want to identify with the Egyptians. So much so that he put his life on the line and went on the run for 40 years after killing an Egyptian who was beating up on one of his brethren. So we see Daniel in a wicked kingdom. He was like, I'm going to refrain from the king's delicacies. So, but in the case of Daniel, even before he had much time to figure things out, he did the right thing. Most people might compromise once, feel bad about it, and make a plan in order to not compromise a second time. But Daniel acted first, so he would not find himself in that situation at all. You have to wonder how many other Jewish youths besides Daniel and his three friends were there. They aren't mentioned, and I'm guessing most of them didn't have the courage to stand up for what was right when they were thrust into a situation alien to them. We have this expectation, don't we, that everyone is going to be righteous and that everything's going to be copacetic. It's a good word, copacetic. We have this idea that everyone is going to stand up for justice, but that is not what resonates in Scripture. It always shows that there was always a remnant who stood up for what was right. So in Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom, everybody else bowed down, but Daniel was like, mm-mm. And then the three Hebrew men were like, mm-mm, I'm not bowing down when you play your horn. Like, I serve the one and only God, and that's what's going to happen. And we all know the Sunday school story of that. So the second point is Daniel worked as if it were all up to him, but he prayed as if it were all up to God.
That's
Right?
deep.
So Daniel worked as if it were all up to him, but he prayed as if it were all up to God. That is a motivator right there. And that
Yeah, and I think that's the what, and so I think that is what will help people during this
right,
time we're in. And I think that's what I do. I do in order for me to feel like I am what's the word I'm looking for? In order for me to feel like I am doing what I need to do to uplift and edify, I have to do all of this through God. It's not me
mhm,
alone. And if I use the and I do, that's the way I operate. I have to do everything to uplift and edify through him because there's no way my own flesh will be able to just do this
right,
on my own. No way. There's no way I would. I
yeah,
know that. If it wasn't for my relationship with God and me having because we are our own temple, I will keep saying that as many times
yeah,
as
yeah,
we're on live. That's what I'll do. So that yeah, through God is how I am able to do the things that I do
yeah.
right now. I see Mr. Leeds is on. Hey Mr. Leeds.
If you think about it too, like because in the lesser of two evils, which one is the better choice? Is the better choice? In the lesser of two evils, which is the better choice? None, because they're both evil.
None. That's what I was about to say. None. I was like, none of
I feel like
them.
Daniel, we can look to him and glean from him what it was like to be in a wicked place where they call all these things good, right? Like, so to one side, police are excellent and they're great, and Blue Lives Matter, and then on the other side, like, police ain't great, but those people on that side say police are good and they're great. So who is in the larger picture, like who is right on that side? When the law says that these things should not be. So to me, that equals wickedness, and I can't choose wickedness over righteousness. It's the lesser of two evils in a situation where I'm having to choose between human life, or when you give me a statistic, right? Because see, that's what they do to create a situation in which you have to choose because they bring a statistic to say, oh well, white people get killed more by police. That's not an antagonistic state that people who I'm going there, and because because the lesser two evils is wicked, and to use a statistic, a number to represent a human life is just wicked to me. It's very wicked. And those people, in essence, I'm like, then how are you not on the protester side then? How do you not acknowledge that the lives that have been lost at the hands of police, even for Americans or white?
And I'm gonna answer that for you though. I'm gonna answer that. Those folks will just say, "Well, we not going because y'all only talking about Black lives." Their answer would be that, and so that's the reason why there's a lot of people that are not
Mhm.
white that people that are that or I'm sorry, people that are white. Some that feel that no, I'm not going to that protest. You're only talking about Black
Mhm.
people.
And so the thing is,
I'm just that's what their argument is. It's like, well, I'm not going because y'all only talking about Black people. All lives matter. There's people that literally will say that and not. And yeah, like you said, with the statistics, it is unfortunate because it's like you're giving statistics, but are you looking at the percentage of white people versus Black people as a population? Are you looking
and
at
to
that
me,
number? Cause look at that number, and then you tell me who you tell me then you let me know then once you start looking at the percentage of Black people in here and then the percentage of white people in, and then you let
well,
me
I
know.
would come out swinging because my thought process is this: if we're having a debate and I say Black Lives Matter and you say all lives matter, and then you bring up the statistics of white Americans being murdered at this rate and Black Americans being murdered at this rate. Like my thought process is like, are you okay with that? And my thought process would be like, are you okay with white people being murdered as long as Black people just don't say nothing? Like, where's this argument going? But I'm kind of getting off topic, so let's get back to Daniel.
Yeah, let's get back. Yeah, let's get back to Daniel.
The next
Hallelujah.
chapter of Daniel, it tells the story of King Nebuchadnezzar's dream, either because he forgot it by the next morning or because he felt like going on a crazy power trip. He asked all the magicians and all the wise men not only to interpret the dream, but to tell him what it was about in the first place. Obviously, nobody could do that, so he ordered that they all be put to death. Picking up the story, so the decree went out, and they began killing the wise men, and they sought Daniel and his companions to kill them. Then, with the counsel and wisdom, Daniel answered Arioch, the captain of the king's guard, who had gone out to kill the wise men of Babylon. He answered and said to Arioch, the king's captain, why is the decree from the king so urgent? Then Arioch made the decision known to Daniel. So Daniel went in and asked the king to give him time that he might tell the king the interpretation. Then Daniel went to his house and made the decision known to Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, his companions. The Babylonian names are Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, but these were their real names. His companions, that they might seek the mercies from the God of heaven concerning this secret, so that Daniel and his companions might not perish with the rest of the wise men in Babylon. So what that's saying is to me is that God gives you a gift so that your life can be spared. He gives you the way out, and if you follow him, he'll make everything all right. Like no matter when people are coming for your life for standing what's true or trying to put you on the same level as other people, because I don't believe in a racial supremacy, but I do believe that God chastises those who he loves and he favors those who he loves. Those who are obedient. The Bible says he's angry every day at the wicked. But when we put ourselves in the
Mm-hmm.
right place, Daniel was a praying man and he prayed no matter what. Um,
Hey,
and
Kendra. I'm saying hey to my
so
girl
what is
Kendra.
amazing to me here is that when Daniel heard there was a dream to be interpreted and he was going to die, he went to the king to ask for more time before he knew God would answer his prayer. You see that? Like he was new,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what. So going back to James, with the faith and the works, right? He had to have the mind already made up. Like I know God gonna come through for me. I know I'm gonna be able to pay my light bill. I know I'm gonna.
That is deep. That is deep. That's deep. So not to cut you off, but I want to say what you just said was powerful because there are a lot of people that pray for things, but they don't feel like it's going to produce anything. Like I feel like you're praying just because you know you can, but you have to believe that it's gonna
Right.
come about. You can't just be like, "Oh Lord, I need some help with
Mhm.
this." All right, well, it's on you, Lord. No, I gotta have the
Yeah.
faith, and then actually with the faith that I have, the works is that I'm gonna be amped up. In my mind, in my heart, in my soul, I know that it's gonna come to pass.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a nonchalant prayer versus a
Yes.
solid prayer.
Yeah. And that's Mark 11:23, where it tells us we can speak to the mountain and say, "Be thou removed and cast into the sea." That if we believe in our heart and do not doubt, then He will do everything that we ask. So this turned out well because it happened that the dream was from God, and making the interpretation known was part of His plan. But Daniel didn't know that at the time. Yet he took that bold step in faith. Now, back in chapter 1, where it said the group of young men from Jerusalem that Daniel was part of were young men in whom there was no blemish, but good looking, gifted in all wisdom, possessing knowledge, and quick to understand. So that's how they lived their life.
Oh, they
They
were
were
good
good
looking
looking.
too.
So wisdom makes you good looking, possessing knowledge, and,
I was like,
and quick to
okay.
understand. And I think, I think we model that. We good looking, possess knowledge,
Mhm.
and we quick to understand. The understand part though, I think is key because can't you
Yeah.
do you see that you have grown and that God put you in positions to grow, like from EOA school? Like have you grown and been able to understand and give somebody on the other spectrum, somebody who is in the system, choosing the lesser of two evils, talking to you about statistics and human life? Like, do you have a better ability to extend the benefit of the doubt and quit?
Well, I do. Well, I mean, you're gonna see when you report to be an EOA officially at your new duty station, Brandon. But me as an equal opportunity advisor now, because I just did a TDY in return, so I'm actually an EOA in my unit. I am definitely touching the lives of cadets
Yeah.
that have their EO complaints, and it's to see it from the equal opportunity
Mhm.
perspective, like of course coupled with religion and coupled with the Bible and stuff like that. I obviously, um I don't put the Bible on them because we have to be neutral. But as far as what I believe to be true, and what I've learned at EO school, definitely for sure you're going to see it when you report the different folks that come, and you're going to have a fresh perspective
Mhm.
on what we learned in school. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. So
Well, amen. So Daniel had been educated and had wisdom, talents given by God that he had developed through education and training. The scripture talks about wisdom is a principal thing and that we should ask for wisdom if we don't have it. In particular, he had been given the ability to understand dreams and visions. So when it came to this moment with the king's dream, it wasn't his first dream interpreting rodeo. Mm. But it doesn't matter how well you can interpret a dream if you do not know what the dream was in the first place. He had to rely on God to show him. So look at that. Like he didn't even have no communication about what the dream was. Like, hey, just let me go pray about it. So he and his friends prayed and fasted. He and his friends prayed and fasted. Got to have some friends who think like you, who or better than you, or who have the same foundation as you. The lesson for us today is that we should be developing the talents God has given us and be using them every day. Not only that, we should be well versed in God's word, which contains the words of life and true wisdom. We must be living its teachings day in, day out, be an example, even when nobody's looking. When a problem or issue arises, we can put those skills, that wisdom, that knowledge, and that training to use to solve it. And I think, that makes me think about a scripture. I think it's in Colossians that says, "Let your conversation be full of grace and love, so that you'll know how to answer everyone." So if you have love and grace, like you'll know how to answer everyone. And that's something like is it like
mhm.
that we men and women, humans, we make stuff a whole lot harder than it really is. So, but even if our skills are more than attached to a task at hand, we should ask God for his help. He can reveal things that we might not think of, and when we aren't sure whether we are suited to a task or qualified to tackle a problem, he can use us in ways we wouldn't dream of, and we must be open to that with faith and courage. This is something I feel like, you know, I admonish you to do, and I admonish myself to do, and that is like to think the way that God thinks about me, and to see like that my purpose is bigger than just me or what I can see right now. Because I'm not the man I was 10 years ago. You know, I'm nearly 40, right?
Whew.
Um,
You don't look it though. You don't
yeah.
look it.
So think about it. We have the Holy Spirit. We understand spiritual mysteries that Daniel had a glimpse of in vision. God's very essence and power has been given to us. The Holy Spirit lives and dwells in us. We can boldly stand before men in strength of that power. Because if we know anything about the end times, we know that as saints and believers, like what's going to happen to us. And that's why I think, I've been pushed to think about, Daniel and I watched Malcolm X, um, the Who Killed Malcolm X show on Netflix, and also the Malcolm X movie again. And I felt like I always liked him because he highlighted something that kind of like maybe Paul did in the scripture, where he was going one way in which he thought was right, but when he had an encounter with God, the one true God, when he went to Mecca, like he stopped worshiping man. This is when his life became a problem, when he stopped worshiping Elijah Muhammad. And in my opinion, this is how I interpret it. He stopped worshiping man because as long as he worshiped Elijah Muhammad, he called the white man the devil. But when he
Hmm.
had his encounter with God, he came to a place where he understood that all could be united under Allah. I'm not saying and I'm not Muslim, but what I do know is I can tell when somebody has had an encounter with God because I know God and I have encounters with Him. And so it was just a powerful experience to see that this man, his whole countenance changed. And like when he was asked if he would work with white people, what his answer was so powerful to me. He was like, white people can fund us, but you can't join us yet because if we don't have unity amongst ourselves, how can we bring in somebody else? And think about how on time and how perfect that response was during that time. I think his answer will be different now because clearly we see that there has been, a lot of change. There are a lot of white Americans who feel like these things are wrong that's happening to black people. There are a lot of voices, there are a lot of people marching and protesting who feel the same way we feel about American lives.
Hmm.
Um, so in wrapping up, um, when Daniel experienced fear, he chose to act in faith instead of succumbing to that fear. So if you have faith, the these things that are happening in the world might seem scary. They might seem overwhelming. We might be heavy right now because of watching people who look like us get murdered over and over and over again. And there's other Americans who are not so-called Negro, not so-called Black, who feel the same way about human life. And so the thing is, we have to remember to cast our cares on God, for He cares for us. And He told us to do that. And when we do that, we're able to exist in the wicked kingdom and not choose the lesser of two evils, just like Daniel was, just like Moses was, just like Joseph was. You know, um, fear is natural and can even be good sometimes, but we can learn from Daniel that when it comes to doing what's right, we should choose to look that fear in the eyes and overcome it with faith. We should choose not to succumb to that fear, but instead to boldly act with faith, knowing that God will back us up. In our day in, day out lives, the people surrounding us may or may not share values similar to ours. After an incredible feast of tabernacles where we fellowship with and strengthen our relationship with God's people, we might feel a bit alien back in the grind. When we have these experiences where we have love, and then we got to go back out into the world. But remember, like when we go back out into the world, like He's with us, He dwells in us, and He told us that we surely will have tribulation. So I think that's why, I don't bash Christianity, but I try to hit it though. I try to, in the sense of, what I see in the large part of Christendom where I'm called to, where I intercede for, It's for people to come into to the fullness of the knowledge of God. And you know what I see? A whole lot of like lack of identity, transformation, and lack of the people, right? Because let's face it, police are not the healers of the society. Doctors are not the healers of the society. They ain't got all the answers. But who does? And if he has all the answers, what should we have? We should have all the answers. And when I say we, I mean a conglomerate of us, which is why he gave us the body of Christ, apostles, prophets, pastors, evangelists, teachers. You know, like he gave us within us all, they're the answers. And this is why we can look back to this book of and Daniel and Moses and Joseph and David. And we see that look, none of these people was perfect. No, Noah wasn't perfect. None of these people were perfect, but you know what they had? They had a repenting heart. They had a mind to want to do right. They had a mind to say, you know what? I'm not choosing the lesser of two evils. Even when they made mistakes and messed up, they repented. And so that's my challenge today and what I wanted to talk about, you know, Daniel, because he existed in the wicked kingdom. He existed in Babylon. And guess what? Just the scripture says that which has been shall be. So guess what? Daniel existed in Babylon. Where are we existing right now? Babylon. Where they call evil and evil good. Where they say slavery. I mean, think about. Okay, so I'm done with that. But think about like how that pastor called slavery a white blessing. Like he called something that was so evil a white blessing. He called the sin of slavery a white blessing. If that ain't scripture, I don't know what is. When it comes to saying calling what is evil good and what is good evil. So we're tempted with that every single day, whether we know it or not, whether we watch the news or not, whether we watch television or not. You know, when we go to work, you
Give
know,
give an example of what. Give an example of the opposite. Give an example of what people are saying good being evil.
the protest.
If you can think of one right
I mean,
now.
the
Mm.
protest, 100. I mean, people who don't want to acknowledge how this country was set up in the first place. It was set up by a protest. I would ask those people, what do they think?
Is it the same as my friend saying that protests are legal but stupid? Is that
I
what
think
that
so.
means?
I think so because the protests have done so much good already. They've highlighted, they've went
Look at what I said. The GoFundMe accounts, all the money going to these different people.
yes, and the defund the police, which I think is a good idea to reallocate funds to different areas. And especially like we as Babylon, we have more people locked up here than anywhere else. That money can be reallocated towards people not going back to prison. And I know, like, I'm not talking about the campaign, but if you just go and watch Joe Biden's speech for the 1994 crime bill on the Senate floor. Go and watch his speech. If you have not seen it, I'm not talking about campaigning. I'm not talking about voting or who you should vote for. I'm just saying go and watch that because we need to educate ourselves. And I think what we're seeing is people don't want to educate themselves because then they got to deal with it. It's like you can be against gay people all day long until you find out your best friend is gay. Then you have a decision to make. Is it an issue?
Well, that's how it is with wait. That's how it is with more than just being gay. A lot of people are throwing this whole right. A lot of people are throwing this whole like, COVID-19 ain't real, and then when they find out their relative got it, then what you thinking? So it's like, and that's what I feel with a lot of people. And I have to always say this, but not every white person's like this. But then there's white people that say, you know, when it comes down to like, what example can I give? Like, I mean, something as simple as them not understanding the protests, but let's say they found out one of their friends died or got killed from the police. Then it's like,
Then what?
ooh, it's like, oh, so so then what? Like that same person that thought that protesting was legal but stupid, but found out I went to the protest and I got killed and I got murdered. then are you gonna think the same thing then? So and they know I'm my character. They know I'm not over here starting stuff or provoking or whatever. Then what are you gonna say then? So, and I'm not speaking that all my life by any means, no. But I'm just saying those are the kinds of things that a lot of folks don't think about. When it's them or when it's someone close to them, then their eyes start to open, and it shouldn't be that
And I
way.
think that says a lot about the character of a person. And I really personally have a problem with people who call themselves Christian or believers or people who have a religion. Because, in my study of my religion class, I got a 99, whoop whoop, you know, and
Of course you
and
did.
so the class ain't over yet, but we're like coming on the last week or so. But people, one
Okay.
thing that I have found common with all religions is their duty to one another. Every single one of them have a duty to another human. So people who say they have a religion, and it doesn't that like in my study of religion, it's funny because I know religion has been used, it's been monopolized, but within every single one of them is a duty to humanity and to treat people with kindness. Every single one of them, every single one of them. And so, you know, um, anybody who says they are a believer, I really have a problem with those who, I mean, you don't gotta like all the political baggage of Black Lives Matter. You don't look, whether you
No.
are in a political party, I'm sure most people don't agree with everything in a political party.
Look at Jim says, sadly, it's always been that way until it affects them. Then they can't
Yeah,
identify
and I
with
think
the
that's the
issue.
problem. And I think that's so,
That's a
and that's why we have to not get tired of educating people on these things. And we can't get tired of talking about it. And that's why we got to read and we have to study and we got to keep, that's the reason why we developed this show, is to bring these things out to uplift and edify. And we have two different spectrums that tie in together. We have the philosophical and the spiritual. We have the science and the spiritual. We have, love and the spiritual. We have the good and the
yeah.
spiritual, the good news and the gospel. Like, they're one and the same. And I think that
There's a good balance, though. We have a good balance. I provide a lot of the scientific stuff, the stuff that's in the books, and you're providing more of the spiritual. So I think it's a good mix that people can gravitate to. And I'm glad that that balance is necessary. Because if you're too heavy one area and weak in
right.
another, then it kind of throws us off balance. So I
And
like
I
it.
think that, ties up to what, talking about Daniel. Like look at these men in these positions. And I remember, you know, um thinking about Joseph, thinking about Moses, like how they were righteous people, how they endeavored to be righteous, you know, that'd be like being on the president's council, on the cabinet, and like you're there, and like you're being, you probably as a black man would be called all kind of names, or be thought of as a certain way, but how God put these men there and how they led people within all of that. And I ain't talked about Yahusha this entire time. I call him Yahusha, Christians call him Jesus Christ. But if you think about it, he was crucified for political reasons because he was challenging the authority of the Roman emperor. He was challenging the authority of Caesar by his faith and what he was bringing. The fact that he did come to uplift and edify, but not only was he challenging Caesar, he was who else was he challenging? The religious leaders. They felt he was a threat because he came in and flipped over the tables in the temple and said, "You turned my house into a den of thieves. My house was supposed to be a house of prayer, but y'all just about all that money. Y'all just about he got money. That like did you know that's why a lot of church buildings are designed the way that they are, even the Vatican, and when you go there, it's designed to put you in a state of awe so that you have reverence. It's designed to be something for your senses to see so you can react to it. Did you know that? That's
I did not know that.
but if we look in there and we read the word for ourselves, Daniel had to know God for himself. Moses had to know God for himself. Joseph had to know God for himself. And they had to not only know God, but actually listen. listen and know his character and listen to the instruction that he gave. And when they didn't have instruction, they had to trust that he was who he said he was. And and they had a
Right.
relationship just like we have access to have that same relationship. And the scripture tells us that he don't dwell in temples built with man's hands, but he dwells in us. So, you know, I think
Yeah.
we have perfect opportunities to uplift and edify one another and to look at these stories and to create a human aspect that we are experiencing what Daniel experienced. We will
Mm-hmm.
experience it. And we will have that. So
Mm-hmm.
when we like to talk about our ancestors, that's what I like to talk about. Daniel, the prophet Jeremiah, Isaiah, these people who came before us, experienced these things and maintained, which lets me know that what can we do? Maintain our righteousness. And we don't have to accept the lesser of two evils and be forced into accepting evil as it is. So, I mean, I think that's all I have really.
Okay. Well, yeah, that's it for us. I love how we closed out on that, and I'm glad that we emphasized on Babylon. That was
Mhm.
powerful. That was powerful. And I believe that us two have been brought to uplift and edify, and to, like I said earlier, provide that balance that is necessary for people to
Mhm.
gravitate to. Um, um, but yeah, I really don't have anything else. I just wanted to ensure that on my with my part was to let y'all know what's going on that's good,
Yeah.
because there I just feel that that's important. No, because I even asked a couple of friends if they knew about the stuff that's going on for George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, the GoFundMe. They didn't know about Janiqua Charles, none of that. They didn't know about the police officer that arrested her, that's offered jobs, and like a lot of these people don't even know all that stuff. But I just wanted to ensure that I
Yeah.
provided that. Defunding the police was a good topic that I think I covered, and then you covered Babylon with Daniel, and it's just I feel that as these episodes continue to go along, they're just gonna just continue to uplift and edify. That is our goal. Our goal is to do that, and I think we're doing well. We appreciate the views. We had a lot.
You know, I
Go
feel like the
ahead,
most
Brandon.
important thing, why I didn't finish the story. But I'm glad, because now I can finish the story. Because like what I didn't say was that Daniel and the three Hebrew men changed the entire kingdom by maintaining their righteousness. Think about
Mm.
it. So we
Mm-hmm.
know Daniel was thrown into the lion's den, not eaten up. He was about 80 something old,
Yeah.
not eaten up, right? The three Hebrew men thrown in the fiery furnace. It looked like four. The Son of Man, Yahushua himself was in the fire, showed up in the fire with them. They came out not smelling like smoke, not being burnt up, nothing. And so because of that, Nebuchadnezzar changed his ways from idolatry to him being worshipped to the God of Daniel being worshipped, to the God of the three Hebrew men being worshipped. And that's what I forgot, the best part of the story. So I'm glad you were like wrapping it up, because I'm just like, well, how did I forget that? That's the best part of the story, that when we connect to our purpose. So whether you're a doctor, a teacher, we're like us, being EOAs, wherever you find yourself or what your purpose is, that's kind of where I feel like, we bring thy will on earth, um, as it is in heaven, bring it to earth. You know what I'm saying? Like that's where we birth that through, and we never know. We don't ever know how big that impact will be. You know what I'm saying? Like and the
Mm.
fire was turned up how
Yeah.
many times higher than normal? Seven, 7 times seven. It was turned up so much so that the gold on the outside burned up. But I think I would just highlight from the decision that they made to stay the course of righteousness, they changed the entire kingdom of Babylon. So that adds another layer to what we can accomplish. Does it not? That if we maintain our righteousness, ain't no telling, we could be mayor someday. You know what I'm saying? We could be what like in high places of influential authority. And we have to let God put us there. We don't have to sell our soul. to get there. We ain't got to join no Illuminati. We ain't got to join no Masons. We ain't got to join no fraternity for us to get there. These men and women, because we could go to Naomi, Ruth, Esther, these men and women, like, made the decision to stay the course of righteousness.
And Jim says, and it wasn't until he had his riot in the temple with the money changers did they finally arrest him. Powerful stuff. Powerful stuff. That was good. So I'm glad that my closing remarks got you to wrap that on up, moderating. But yeah, we thank you for taking the time to watch us. It's Father's Day today, so to all you fathers out there, happy Father's Day. And I hope that you all are able to enjoy your day. It is somewhat nice. It was raining here in Kentucky a little bit ago, but yeah, happy Father's Day to the fathers. And we thank you for tuning to the episode 7 of VIBELYTICAL, where we talked about money and social change in Babylon. And do you have any closing remarks, Brandon, before we go?
Just that, we stay the course of righteousness, get to know God for ourselves. Now is the time to really educate ourselves and spend time doing that. Spend time educating yourself on American history and what is really going on. And don't allow anything to be hijacked. And if I can give an example, people say Colin Kaepernick is disrespectful to the flag when he kneels. But I would challenge anybody who thinks that or feels that way, go back to the original video interview where he told why he was doing it, where he explained how he's not disrespecting the flag, but he's not going to reverence a flag more, like a flag that doesn't represent the same thing for all Americans. So I think it's important to educate ourselves. Don't be blown to and fro by every wind and doctrine. Like, just because somebody says it who's influential, who you may respect, still challenge that person on it if it doesn't sit well with you, and come from a place of love, grace, and humanity. And I think if you come from love, grace, and humanity, you cannot go wrong. And when you do go wrong, you'll correct yourself. You'll catch yourself. So
good. So I'll wrap that up with do your research, you all. It is important. That is what I'm doing. That is what Brandon is doing. We're doing our research so we can provide such very valuable information to you all, and for you all to see various perspectives on what's going on in the world, and of course with biblical information as well. So yes, until next time, you will catch us here on VIBELYTICAL. We may have a random pop up next week during the week, so be by your Facebook on that. And yeah, I'll talk to you all later. And it was really good. This is a really good conversation, Brandon. So thank you.
Please like, share, comment, and if you're watching the replay, we will respond to your comments. And thank you for liking and sharing. See y'all next time.
All right. Bye y'all.